Millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people.
You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist.
Produced by a nuclear exchange would be carried by wind and water and soil and seed to the far corners of
the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another civilization.
Most of the people in here are just your reflections. They're your mistakes.
1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms.
1 million of the planet's 8 million species are threatened.
You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act.
Your lives and the credibility of the United Nations is at stake.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
The reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization.
They're trying to take you out with bullshit.
The experience of the past 2 years has proven beyond doubt that no nation can appease the Nazis.
To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish.
In the language of the U.S. Department of Defense, these are unidentified aerial phenomena.
Roswell's a very interesting place with a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
There is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
This is the Garden of Doom.
Welcome everyone into Garden of Doom, and our October Spooktober continues with an interview with Madam X. Now, first I want to say hello and good evening, Madam. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, I want to make a confession to the audience. This is actually the second time that I am recording with Madam X. The first time something went wrong and it didn't take. So hopefully that will benefit the show, because some of the questions I asked really out of ignorance just had nothing to do with her areas of expertise. And she's got about 1 million areas of expertise. So this will be better, but if you ever hear me during the course of the show referencing when we last spoke, our last conversation, you didn't miss anything. You didn't miss a part one. It's just because it's, I'm doing this live. You're not hearing it live. And so I'll probably be referring to that. So Madam X is a matriarch. She's a muse. She's a journeyer. She's a collector of souls, a philanthropist, and a student of life. She also is a practicing witch, and she also identifies as a vampire, among other things. She just does a ton of things. She's involved with a bunch of other projects. I don't know the order in which I'm going to drop shows, but it's a small world. I did an interview with Balthazar from New Orleans, who's a vampire, and he knew her, and she knows him. So I don't know who you'll hear from first, whether it'll be Madam X or Balthazar, Papazar. But they'll both shows will be playing this October. Like Papazar, there's a lot of philanthropy involved and a lot of mentoring, but I don't want to steal any of the thunder. Madam X, I would like you to do your proper introduction of yourself before we move on.
Well, hello everyone. I am Madam X of the Dreaming on all my social networks. Madam X has been my pen name since the 90s. It started out with poetry, and then it became part of me in the Nightside community. I'm many things. I'm a writer, I'm a poet, I'm a muse, I'm an event producer, I'm a priestess, I'm a performance artist, I'm a teacher, and I'm an eternal student. The most important thing in my life, aside from my dayside family, would be my nightside family. I am the founder and matriarch of House of the Dreaming. It was established in the 2000, and it's my spiritual family, an international coven, if you will. Currently, I am the primus and producer of the Court of the Iron Garden, which is a safe haven for New Jersey night kind. So vampires, witches, therians, other kin, occultists, goths, and the curious. We serve the community with educational and pagan programming that's focused on the arts, social networking, performance art, with a focus on meeting teachers and meeting peers who are interested in the occult and pagan traditions, arts and crafts, and all sorts of fun, wonderful things. But it is an adult program, so we also offer things that are a little edgier, like fetish nights and a little bit of kink now and then. So, fun.
Yeah, well, this is an adult show for the most part, and if any kids are listening to this, it's all right. I mean, yeah, it's on their parents, right? So,
absolutely.
All right. So last time I asked you a whole bunch of questions about Wicca and Wiccan, and I, thought all witches were Wicca, and they're not. So you are not a member of the Wiccan religion. Wicca is, so all Wicca are witches, but not all witches are Wicca. So I just wanted to, first of all, am I right about that?
Yes,
okay.
You're correct.
So I wanted to get
There's
that.
all different types of witches. And while I will embrace the label of witch, I suppose I'm more of an occultist than a witch. I would be best described as a chaos magic practitioner, which is a little bit, if you're not familiar with the term, it would be a little bit like an eclectic spiritualist that will draw concepts and practices and philosophies from a myriad of different cultures and paths. And if they resonate with me inside, it really doesn't matter from what spiritual tradition it's coming from. And it's useful to me because it's meaningful. And as a chaos magic practitioner, I like to combine those things.
I'm definitely going to get back to the chaos magic practitioner and what chaos magic is versus any other kind of magic. But I want to start back with what attracted you to this, or what was the, I don't know, how did you even encounter this way of life, this way of thinking? How do you start this journey? Do you find a mentor? Is it accidental? Is it a call-in? What's your origin story?
That's a very good question. And it may be a very long answer.
We have time.
Sometimes we are drawn to a certain path, not just because of one reason, but it seems like everything is pushing us in that direction. I had wonderful godparents, my godfather and my godmother, who have passed decades ago, were very influential on my development as a child. And that it's okay to ask questions, and it's okay to read books about topics that may be a little bit more controversial or for older individuals. So they had a huge library, and I was very much drawn to the books that they had. Now, I have to let you know that I was born in Europe, in a small country in Western Europe called Portugal. And during the time, it was a fascist regime. And why is that important? It's important because during the fascist regime, there were many books that were banned. There were many practices that were outlawed. And if you were engaging in even a gathering of more than 6 individuals, you had to have a government agent present. Imagine.
Wow. Yeah.
My godfather was a particularly charming man. He spoke several languages, and their house was right in front of the police station. And I always wondered, well, don't you worry? Because, I mean, he had a vast collection of international books that were certainly banned in our country. I said, well, don't you worry? He's like, no, not at all. I invite them to come visit all the time. And because I'm so open and so inviting, I'm safe.
Right. He reversed psychology them.
A little bit, yes. He was quite smooth, quite the charmer. And he was a student, I would say, or I could say that Antonio Pessoa, Portuguese writer, was his mentor when he was a young man. And Antonio Pessoa was a good friend of Crowley. And Aleister Crowley actually came to Portugal to visit with Antonio Pessoa. So I have stories from my godfather that depict his relationship, and I grew up listening to those. Whether they're 100% true or a little bit of dramatization, I'm not quite sure. But nonetheless, my godfather and his charming ways was certainly a huge influence on me. Both to see who I wanted to be and to see who I did not. Fortunately, my godfather was an alcoholic, probably because he was a sensitive and had problems dealing with his sensitivities to spirit, right, and spirits. Right. And other entities that would accost him. And in order to ground himself, he turned to drinking. And I'm sure he's not the only sensitive that does the same. And he showed me who I did not want to be.
Gotcha.
I certainly never want to turn to substances to ground me. So meditation is the way to go. But my godparents, I think, were very formative for me to develop an interest in things that lie beyond the physical. When I was 7 years old, my classmates stoned me for being a witch.
Wow.
So now at the age of 7,
yeah,
I must confess that I had no idea what a witch was.
Well,
was a witch just an ugly person?
Well, 7, you can't be too old and ugly, right?
Well, you know, I had no idea what a witch really was. There were no books on witchcraft in Portugal. All of those books were banned. And it wasn't until 1975 that I actually started looking into books about witchcraft, the occult, the paranormal, demonic possessions. All of those books started coming into the country after the fall of the fascist regime. So certainly at that young age, I had no idea what a witch was. But I figured, well, maybe a witch reads palms. So I asked my godmother about that. And she's like, yes, and I can teach you how to do that. I'm like, oh, you read palms? That's wonderful. And she's like, and we can also read cards. I was like, oh, that's amazing. So at a very young age, my godmother showed me how to read palms. And she called it a science, an applied science, if you will. You just need to know how the lines are turned and how deep they are and where they go and what they touch. So more of a science than intuition. But I think that the way she approached it was very good because I considered myself, you know, a scientist in the making at that time. I wanted to be a scientist and I wanted to be an astronaut and I loved all sorts of scientific things at the time. And I think the way that she presented it as a science, that palmistry was a science, really, really appealed to me. She just knew how to communicate with me. And my godfather at that time, he also said that sometimes, and I'll never forget this, that while I may be drawn to science and to facts, sometimes you will be exposed to the better truth if you read fantasy and fiction, because it is easier to express the truth under the guise of fantasy and fiction. And I was like, but he certainly opened the door for me.
What were the books that influenced you as a youth or a young adult?
I can probably go to the bookshelf and pick out some of those. Most of the books that I was reading at that time were, of course, in Portugal. They were either by Brazilian or French authors that had been translated most likely into Brazilian and that were coming into the country. And that was in 1975. So I wasn't exactly a little kid at the time. But those were the very first books that came in. Demonic Possessions, The Invisible Realms, the books on exorcisms, books on psychic abilities. And then I also fell into, of course, UFOs, unexplained phenomena. I read Project Blue Book probably in 75, 76. And I was like, wow, this is great. And that fine line between the paranormal, the unexplained, and the UFO mystery, to me, that was all fantastic.
A lot of overlap
so
there.
Whatever I could get my hands on. As far as fictional science fiction authors, Ray Bradbury was fantastic. Robert Heinlein, one of my favorite authors. Isaac Asimov.
The classics.
Philip K. Dick. So wonderful, wonderful reads that really expanded the mind.
What about Lovecraft?
I was not exposed to Lovecraft until I came to the United States. And I think I had been here already for a good decade when I was exposed to H.P. Lovecraft. And when I did, it was love at first sight. In fact, I did several trips to Rhode Island to his gravesite. And I composed poetry in his homage, and I read his poetry at his gravesite, and absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, I'm pretty embarrassed that Lovecraft somehow escaped me until I was an adult. I don't know how that happened, but no one's interested in hearing about my story today. So I'd like to get some nomenclature out of the way. So you said that you prefer to be identified as an occultist. You don't mind the term witch, but what are the terms, definitions, labels that we would put under occultists, and just briefly what are they? What would a lay person understand them to be?
Well, most people would say, well, you're an occultist. Does that mean you're a Satanist? Right?
Probably, yeah. I think most people would probably jump to that conclusion, yeah.
Right, and that's not necessarily the case.
Right.
An occultist may study different arcane philosophies, from the Keys of Solomon to chaos magic, to ceremonial magic, Angus Day principles, to Wicca, right? And I like the term occultist because I really consider myself to be a student of the craft. And I believe the craft to be very broad. And it begins with shamanism, the essential roots of magic, and it flows from there. And if I had more time, I would certainly read more and practice. Because, it's not just about reading philosophy. It's about applying it and utilizing it.
Yeah. Yes, and you keep yourself very busy. We're going to get to all of the things that you do shortly. I think shortly anyway. But it's interesting you said shamanism, and so much can be fall under the umbrella of shamanism, but it seems to be sort of like the first religion, maybe even, I'm not sure if it came before or after or simultaneous with ancestor worship or veneration, but everyone in this journey at some point thinks that they're on the path to finding a universal truth, right? That's what all the philosophers are essentially doing, and the religions. And I stumbled upon this theory where I thought that somewhere, wherever the first people who started whatever became the Indo-European family of languages, that's where it was. And then someone said, well, I think you're on to the right path, but I think you're not really looking for the language. I think you're looking for the first shaman. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right. And yeah, there's no way I can do that for where I'm sitting. So, what form of shamanism, or where did you find shamanism, or who taught you shamanism? Like, what was your introduction to it?
I think my introduction to it was, of course, through books. And I don't really remember, like, the first book that I read about shamanism. I really can't say. However, I did study with several shamans. One of them was a Buddhist shaman, and he was also an astrologer, an artist, a poet, and a Tai Chi master. So that is Eastern shamanism, Taoism, if you will. I also studied briefly, and by briefly I mean just for a few years, with a Native American shaman. And he had some Native American lineage, but he was more of an urban shaman, if you will, that carried on the knowledge and traditions of those that he had studied with. And I guess those two would have been my two shamanic teachers, I guess. But at that time, I was already an adult with both, so I already had my own interpretations of shamanism, and I really felt that it is the root of all magic. It is the root of all spirituality. And much of it has to do with respect and observation of not just ancestors, but of all those that have come before, and our environment, and learning to read the signs that are placed before us, the omens that are placed before us.
Okay, that seems like a very big topic. I want to clear up one thing with the audience. On the last interview, I asked about the word warlock because my understanding of it was that it was a male witch. I was informed that is not correct at all. It's actually a slur. It's like an insult in the occult community. So if you could embellish a little bit on that,
Sure.
Yeah.
And the word warlock was used to signify traitor. However, warlock, you're locked in war, so you are betraying someone, warlock. However, in today's society, people often refer to themselves as a warlock. It's okay. We know what a warlock is because we've seen the movies. We've read the books about these male witches that are the warlock, right?
Yep.
I think that when we talk about this, we went back to how witchcraft was a religion of women, and women were shunned for engaging in this terrible witchcraft, and they were witches. And so, how dare a man be involved in this women evil doing by women? And so there arrived the term warlock.
Okay. Now, witchcraft.
I have no problem with if someone wants to identify themselves as a warlock. I mean, I have certainly no problem with it. I know what they mean.
Okay. And witchcraft is not by any means limited to women. That's a misconception, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
The terms for guys are generally witch, which is gender neutral, or a mage, right? Or magus, even.
Yep.
Depending how fancy you want to be.
Right, or magi. Is there any difference with a sorcerer or a wizard, or are these just synonyms?
Well, I mean, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, I think it depends on the level of aptitude. You're either a sorcerer, enchanter, witch, etc. But if you are part of a particular coven that offers degrees, and with the degrees offers certain titles, then perhaps yes, perhaps there will be a difference between a magus and a witch or an adept. So it really does depend on which organization you belong to.
Is there any number of different types of organizations, or is it just countless?
I think it's countless.
Okay. That's the impression I remembered. And just to be clear, what's a coven?
So a coven is generally a group of witches that gather periodically and that they engage in witchcraft, spell work, or other types of magic and socialization.
And I know that you are not a member of the Wiccan religion, but basically what is Wicca in layman's terms?
So Wicca is a form of spirituality that was developed in the 50s and finally came to be recognized as a religion, I guess, in the 70s. In some parts of the world, Wicca is still not accepted as a valid religion, and certainly not as a valid form of spirituality. But it's more recently has been accepted in the United States and in the UK and perhaps in Australia as well, Canada perhaps. But there's still many parts of the world that don't accept Wicca.
Well, sure. I mean, there's parts of the world that don't accept lots of things.
Of course.
But I'm sure Wicca or anything.
And I think it's important to know that it's a relatively new spiritual belief. It is inspired in ancient traditions of the Celts and the Druids and shamanic traditions, as well as perhaps even Crowleyan beliefs or Rosicrucian Freemasonry beliefs, right? Things that predated the 50s. And it came together, manifested itself as Wicca.
You mentioned Crowley a couple times. That's Aleister Crowley. Just briefly, who is Aleister Crowley?
Aleister Crowley is, I consider him to be a philosopher and magical practitioner. And he was inspired by the OTO, or the Ordo Templari Orientalis. I guess from the Templar Knights, as well as from the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. And so he combined those concepts with quite a few of his own, and he created his own brand of magic with a K.
Oh, Very interesting. I have a show on Hermeticism, so for those of you who want to learn more about it, go check out that show with Luke Michael Ironside. He's brilliant and he does a great job of going into detail with that. And he mentions, of course, the Order of the Golden Dawn and sort of how it got a bad rap over time. There is a fairly famous figure, which I'm pretty sure predates Crowley by decades, if not a century or so, named Madame Blavatsky. I fear I know very little about her, except that she was famous and she was sort of welcomed from court to court. Does she play a role in this at all?
Of course. She inspired many. Madame Blavatsky was Hitler's right hand.
Ooh. Well, we have to. Yeah.
So, if you want me to continue, I will, but you might
not. This is Garden of Doom, so we can't fear these things. And by the way, I have a show also on Nazis and the occult that's coming, but I don't know that we get too much into this side of it too much, so they actually might work hand in hand. So yeah, go for it. Go dark.
Okay, so Madame Blavatsky, she was a Russian mystic, and she is one of the founders of the Theosophical Society, and that was in the mid to late 1800s, I guess. Fun fact, Thomas Alva Edison was a member of the Theosophical Society. So it certainly attracted a great deal of names of who's who. And she, in my belief, she was a philosopher as well as a psychic and a medium. And she really inspired many different modern beliefs, ancient wisdom. I mean, she combined science, religion, philosophy, and even psychology, the early psychology of that time, into explaining why the world was the way it was and how we can pull those strings. A lot of it came from Buddhist mysticism, from my personal opinion. And I think different people look at her work and they see different things. And, she had a secret doctrine. If you resonated with her secret doctrine, you would have a higher understanding of the world. There's a lot about her work that I don't resonate with. But I have to say that there's a lot of what she says that absolutely makes sense to me.
Is her secret doctrine still a secret, or can we?
Yes, it is published.
Okay, so what was her secret doctrine? If we can do it in a paragraph-ish.
Well, I'll tell you. One of the beliefs was the belief in different races, and not the races as we know them. Negro, Caucasian. None of that. But they were different races. So that we are members of a certain race because we exist at this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it involved a little bit of religion and politics as well, and the creation of these races and supreme races, and
That's where she loses you, which is probably not a bad place to get lost. I mean, obviously, anyone can infer where maybe this got into Hitler's orbit. There's some discrepancy as to how interested Hitler was in the occult versus some of his lieutenants, and whether he was,
he was extremely. He had to be, or the people of his team had to be, because they were great collectors of occult goods.
That's what I thought, and I thought that they were all in on it. Whether or not he was just like, what's the harm, or whether he was all in on it himself, I don't know.
I'm sure he wanted them. Heck, I want them. You know, there is a certain energy with these ancient artifacts, whether they are clearly powerful or whether we perceive them as powerful. As you approach an ancient artifact, you can feel, as a sensitive, right? You can feel its energy. Even if you cannot feel the energy, just rubbing elbows with the right people, rubbing elbows with the right item can empower you. So, yeah, perhaps it was like, well, there's nothing wrong with getting the Spear of Longinus
Right.
in our collection. And there's nothing wrong with getting these amazing works of art in our collection. Or in getting the cauldron, that Celtic cauldron, that amazing cauldron that he had. So, yes, perhaps he said maybe there's nothing wrong with it, but I think he delighted in the fact that he had those in his pocket.
I think you're probably right. You mentioned a few different kinds of magic, or at least that's what it sounded like to me. Ceremonial magic, Keys of Solomon, and chaos magic. You already addressed chaos magic, but what are the other two, and how do they compare and contrast to each other and to chaos magic?
And these other two were?
Ceremonial magic and Keys of Solomon.
Oh, okay. Well, a chaos magic practitioner can use these different paths as tools for the expression of their work. A chaos magic practitioner can use Tantra, can use Taoism, can use Gnosticism, Sufism, anything really, including Christianity, including Jewish traditions. So all of these are tools that a chaos magic practitioner can employ.
Yeah, I had a guest on this show. I'm not sure which one at this point, but they told me straight. They said, listen, magic is magic. Whether it's Egyptian magic or Chinese magic or Druidical magic or shamanism, magic is magic. It's just how you get to it and how you use it.
Right. And that is correct. And magic need not be so complicated, right? As we evolve, we try to make things very ornate and very wordy and very complicated, and many different philosophies to explain it. For example, the Kabbalah, right? Jewish mysticism. How many different takes there are on the Kabbalah? How many books have been written on the Kabbalah? In fact, the Kabbalah itself, if you think about it too long, you're likely to go insane. But this is with anything. You can certainly overthink the heck out of anything. You can use Lovecraftian mythos in chaos magic work. If it resonates with you and you can channel it, then you can use it. So all of these different practices, they're all different in many ways. And even in its single form, meaning in its original form, there's different people that have different perspectives in what it means and how they ought to be used.
What's a grimoire?
And nobody likes chaos magic practitioners.
Oh, well, yeah, we learned that from the Scarlet Witch in the MCU, which I'm sure is entirely accurate. What is a grimoire?
A grimoire is a collection of spells, ceremonies, rituals, maybe even dreams or dream work. Could be pathworking. So now that there are grimoires that are published books, and then you can have your own personal grimoire. your own collection of notebooks or your own file on your laptop.
So to call it a spell book is a very it's giving it short shrift.
Well, if that's all it is, you need more than that.
Well, okay,
you know,
a spell
need
book,
almost like a diary. You need a diary of every day, what your everyday magic is. Why is today magical? Why was today magical? And you include that in your book. And yes, include your rituals, include your spells, include perhaps someone else's working that you did that worked out very well for you. Make a note of all these things. But ultimately, it should be more than just a spell book or a book of poetry, right? It could be a book of incantations, and you can call it a grimoire. Sure, you can. But it can be so much more. And you should never limit yourself to just one exploration.
There is that book that has the really long, scary name, and it's supposed to be really, really bad. And I'm sure you know exactly what I'm trying to say, but it escapes me.
Are you talking about the Necronomicon?
Yes, I am. Yes.
So now, are you talking about Lovecraft Necronomicon?
No.
Or are you talking about the Egyptian Necronomicon?
I'm thinking the Egyptian one is the real one as opposed to the Lovecraft one, but I guess I don't really know. You tell me, which one am I talking about?
I don't know which one you're referring to. But certainly, the Egyptian Necronomicon, or the Book of the Dead, refers to the practices that were included in mummification and in preparing the dead cross over to the next world. And for the Egyptians, it was a complex, detailed process of not only preparing the physical body, but also preparing the tomb and everything else that went into crossing over. And the more valued a citizen you were in Egyptian society, then the more you needed to ensure that you got to the other side. So,
all right, now we're going to get into some of the titles that you have, but before I start rattling things off, you mentioned the word primus before, and what does that mean?
Primus means the first. I guess it's from the Latin. And we use it in the vampire community. We use the term primus to refer to the first citizen or the first member. Generally, the primus is the creator of the organization or of the court.
Gotcha.
So generally, that term primus is reserved for courts, which are different from covens.
Okay. Well, what's the difference?
So a court is a gathering of individuals from different covens, different houses, different clans, and of course, solitary independents as well. But a court provides a town green, if you will, for peaceful meeting of everyone. And it's also a good place to go if you are looking for mentors, or if you're looking for a coven or house that you'd like to belong to, that you'd like to get your education from. A court is a good place also to come up if you have problems or complaints or any kind of situation that you may need help with, right? Sometimes we have stalkers or whatnot, and it's like, what do I do? And by yourself, it's kind of difficult to take care of things. So if you can go somewhere that you can approach others in person for help and support and advice, it's fantastic. So that's generally what a court does.
Okay. And I guess a coven is just limited to that group of like-minded witches.
Correct. So a coven will definitely be and I'm going to say a small group of individuals. Initially a coven was supposed to be 13. Certainly nowadays it is no longer 13. Coven can be as long as their priests deem it to be. But a court is generally a larger group of individuals, and you pretty much are open to all.
Why was it 13?
13 is a very special number.
I know.
I've actually written articles on the power of the number 13. But yeah, 13 is a very special number, Jesus had 13 disciples,
Right. Or if people want to, kick Mary out, which is probably not right, you could say that there's Jesus and 12 apostles. And then I know, there's really actually 13 signs in the solar zodiac.
13, not 12.
But that poor one got kicked out also. And but most of the zodiacs, even the ancient the temples, have a sun in the middle and then the 12 signs. So 13. And I'm told that King Arthur, the round table, had 12 knights around King Arthur, and 13. So what makes 13? I mean, at some point, these things came later. Something earlier decided that 13 was special. Do you know what that something is?
Well, it has something to do with numerology, no doubt. But the number 13 is always very special. But then you can also say, well, so is the number 1 as well as the number 2. Of course, the number 3 is particularly special, and well, the number 4 is special as well. So, you can say the same thing that you say about the number 13, you can say about any other number, right? If you look at the numerology part of it. So you can give it great value, or you can also discount it. So let me just put that out there. But generally the number 13 is a number of power, and it implies community, it implies working. And when you even if you have a large group of individuals, when you kind of see who is working, who is doing stuff, it'll boil down to 13. It's just the karmic power that is intrinsic to the number 13.
Okay. Poor 13. Well, not poor 13, but I always feel about that zodiac sign, and it's my zodiac sign, by the way, that it got greater status because I think it's Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus. Right. Yeah. So it's mine, Scorpio, that gets like a full month when it's only there for like a week or something like that. So yay me, I guess. All right. So you do a ton of things. I don't even really know where to start. I'm going to start with probably the one that's the most, fun and the headline grabber, and that is that you're in a movie. You're working on a movie.
I am. Oh my goodness, it's so much fun. In fact, we're going to be having our wrap party this weekend that I'm very excited about. A wrap party is kind of like we're wrapping up the movie. It's come close to completion. We're done filming, and we're in the final stages of the editing process, and it's going to be out very soon.
So it's not like Crush Groove. It's not going to be like you're freestyling, and it's going to be like the vampires versus the witches in a rap battle.
No. No, but you never know. You never know what will happen. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We're getting the folks that were starring in the movie, as well as, the producers. Hopefully the director will join us as well. And I've been working on the movie as the co-producer and co-director, and it's been so much fun.
Great.
And
what's it called?
It's called Blood and Lust. It is a vampire movie. I don't think it's necessarily a horror movie per se. I would say it's more of a psychological thriller. And I have to tell you that to this point, the most moving experience I've had in the film was that I helped write this one section of a particular scene, and I really put my heart into it, and I thought it was particularly sincere from a vampire's perspective, and that kind of just like, went with that, right? But then when I saw it performed by the actress, I was brought to tears. I was
great.
Because I've had my poetry read by other people, and it's so flattering and wonderful to see someone else read my poetry, but this was different. This was an expression of self that I had put into paper. And the actress, she did such a fantastic job.
Awesome.
So,
do you know when it's supposed to be released?
Oh, I cannot say.
Well, you want people to see it, right?
I certainly do. And we do have a Facebook page, Blood and Lust. And we do have a GoFundMe because we do need funding. We need help to get it off the ground and actually put it out there. So much money has already been invested. So, definitely come and check out Blood and Lust. It's going to be a great movie. And keep in touch with me or with the actual page on Facebook. And maybe soon we'll also have a website for it. And we hope to enter it in film festivals and, different things. But definitely, I would say the very beginning of next year.
All right, that is great. So, folks, you can give money to that on the GoFundMe, and you can consider yourself a producer of sorts or associate producer of a movie. You can be in show business. So that's very cool. Listen, the audience is going to say, Jeff, she's made reference to vampires several times, and you haven't asked her about a vampire. So I have to ask you, when you self-identify as a vampire, what does that mean to you?
To me, and that's a very good question, because I think different individuals will have different perspectives of what a vampire is, right? And I think most individuals are influenced by what they see on television, what they see in the movies, and what they read in books, right?
Oh, of course,
and although that's wonderful and it's really creative, transformative entertainment, it is entertainment. So when I say I am a vampire, I mean that I understand, utilize, and draw energy, life energy from others, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that most people understand that everyone is an energetic being as well as a physical being. Some people can draw energy, and that may or may not be a good thing, right? Because some people can be just negative and draw energy in a negative way and leave people around them depleted and exhausted and tired. So that's not exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
But I do draw and utilize interpersonal energy for my well-being, for the work that I do, and for my personal growth and development.
Is it synergistic, or does it drain the other person, or is it just unilateral to give you more strength or spirit?
It is not always the same. There could be different types of exchange, but generally I consider it an exchange. Okay. And I do have specific donors who are willing and desiring to work with me so that I can obtain that energy. And it wasn't a lot of fun during COVID times where you couldn't be with people. And although you can do energy work online, and it's not my preferred form of exchange.
Right now, I'm having the scintilla of an idea for a plot of a movie where the energy is going through like Zoom or something, but some of it gets sapped by a ghost in the machine, and you know, terrible things happen from there. But since I'm never going to make a movie, you can use it for your next movie if you like. I have more faith. I have more faith in your show business future than mine. All right. You have also worked at Dark Side of the Con, which is a convention. So tell us about that, because you're sort of famous.
Oh, thank you. Dark Side of the Con was a 4-year running convention here in New Jersey, and it featured fantastic goth bands, and it was very much a culture convention, so that anyone who was into the dark side, be it music or physical aesthetic or magical work, or maybe even cemeteries, the occult, fashion, etc., bats, right? Fetish, kink, all of those things that are considered dark. Was part of Dark Side of the Con. I don't believe Dark Side of the Con is happening anymore. There is something else called Dark Force that has come to replace Dark Side of the Con.
Okay.
And it's going to happen in April. And what I did at Dark Side of the Con was I did some event planning for culture presentations. So that was my focus. And I only worked for them for 1 year. I had been a guest presenter since the beginning, and it was terrific. So last year I said, how can I help? And they said, oh, would you like to help us put things together? And I said, absolutely. So it was tough because it's such a huge convention. Thousands of attendees from not just all over the country, but all over the world. So really, really fantastic. So the new name for the event is Dark Force, and you can just look it up. They have a webpage, and they're also on Facebook, and I'm sure Instagram.
Oh, I'm sure. It says also that you are a prince at Skylands Gateway Halo. What is that?
It is tradition for every region to select a figurehead in the vampire community, so that if an individual is coming to a particular area or a particular state or a particular city, they can reach out to the prince of the city. I didn't care for queen. I think, that's not me. So I embraced the term prince, and I guess folks took a vote, and they voted me in as the prince of Skylands Gateway Halo, which is really the northern area of New Jersey. So I'm the go-to person. So if you have questions on different covens, different houses, even anything at all, different events, or come to me, and I will do my best to assist, to lead, to guide you to where you need to be.
Excellent. And folks, I want you to know that this is really organized. She has 501c status, tax exempt for at least parts of her organization or organizations that she's involved with. And so this is.
And it's not easy to get there. The Iron Garden, we've been functioning as a cohesive unit since 2015. 2015 was our first public event. And it's been very difficult for us to raise that money because we don't really, we need money in order to become a 501, right? If folks that may not be aware. And not only do you need the money, but you also need a P.O. box, you need a bank account, and you need to establish certain things that it takes money to get.
Yeah. And there's governance. You have to have bylaws. You have to have a board. You have to have meetings.
Oh, that's the easy part. It's the money that's the hard part. And the reason why the money is the hard part is because I'm not a very money-focused person, and I almost think that money and spirit just don't mix, right? So if you are coming to the Iron Garden for spiritual development and to socialize and network with other spiritual individuals who are interested in the paranormal, the occult, and in vampires, how can you realistically charge them money, right? We want to be a church, right? So if we are a church, how can we charge them money? So we really don't. We do have an admission for our events, but that admission goes directly to the venue, right? Because the venue has bills and they need to pay those bills. We are a volunteer-run, donation-based organization. So it takes us a while, right? And we also like to help those around us. So at one point, we were afraid we were going to lose our home, our venue, QXT's. It was closed for almost 2 years because of the pandemic, yet bills still needed to be paid. And so we felt that we were compelled as an organization to put our pennies together and help them as well to ensure our continuation.
Now, if anybody wants to help out the organization or donate to it, is this the Iron Garden or is this the House of the Dreaming?
This would be the Iron Garden.
Okay.
That's the port of the garden. House of the Dreaming is my international company.
Okay.
There are websites for both. So if you want to look and see what these are, you certainly can. But the Iron Garden is the haven for Nightside individuals, for Nightcon. It is the port. And that is what we're working on, or trying to get it to be church status. And we're close. We're close.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
What is the Dark Nations?
Dark Nations was a House of the Dreaming project. It was started by Khan, one of our house brethren, and it was an organization designed, online organization, designed to bring together different houses and inspire each other. What happens when you have different covens, by any other name, a different house, right? Mm-hmm. Houses and covens are very similar. We use the term house to illuminate that we are not strictly witches or that we're mostly vampires. We call them houses, like a family. So sometimes you isolate yourselves. You're a house, you do your house business, you talk to each other, and there is no movement beyond what the house does. When the houses start coming together, now we can start talking about cooperation and collaborative projects, and perhaps we can inspire each other by sharing what we're doing. Oh, how so-and-so is doing poetry readings. Oh, how so-and-so on the other end of the country, they're doing open mic nights. Cool. Maybe we can have someone from your house come to our open mic nights, right? So it's fun to inspire each other. And there is no stronger magic than inspiration and motivation to move forward and to grow. So Dark Nations was created to bring houses together and to lead by example and to motivate each other to do great things for our community.
Your last formal title on your bio is chapter head at New Jersey chapter of Bloodlines International. And so what is that?
Bloodlines International was a group that was created by Oldie and Heaven. I think they started with a Florida chapter, and it was basically, and this was, I guess, in the 90s, right? And it was an online support group for vampires. And they had regional meetings. They used to do little outings. Let's go to a diner, or let's go to a golf club, right? So it was kind of a fun support group. And it grew. In the year 2000, there were a variety of chapters, I believe one for each state. And when I lived in Savannah, Georgia, I became involved with the Georgia Bloodlines group. I became the chapter head. We did all sorts of fun things. And right now, I'm in New Jersey, so I am the chapter head for the Bloodlines group in New Jersey. But we sort of kind of merge into everything that's going on in the Skylands Gateway Halo, right? And we merge into what's going on with the Iron Garden. And we welcome different individuals to come to our Facebook group and tell us what you're into, what things you would like to do. Because, you know, sometimes you work on Fridays, so you cannot attend the Iron Garden. But you would like to do things. And it's an open forum where people can express their interests. They can tell us what they're doing. And we can certainly meet each other. We have similar interests, similar passions. And that's what all of these groups are for, connection.
When you described House of Dreaming as your international coven, I mean, obviously I know what the words mean. You have members from how many countries?
That's a good question. Well, we certainly have members in the United States. We also have members in the UK, in Germany, in Portugal, the UK, yeah, and the US.
Okay, very good. And you have a lot of titles. Which is your preferred? If somebody is talking to you, I mean, do you prefer they call you Madam X? Do you prefer Primus, Prince, Matriarch? I know you said you don't like Queen.
No. Madam X is fine. I don't expect anyone to come and kiss my ring, nor will I push my ring in their face. You know, and some halos, unfortunately, the elders of certain groups expect their ring to be kissed, and they will go as far as to shove the ring into someone's face so that they can kiss it. Okay. I've been in this community since the very dawn of the vampire community, and I think that's despicable.
Yeah, that sounds very...
Respect is earned, and if you are forcing someone to give you any kind of respect, you're certainly not going to do it by shoving your hand into their face.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So it seems very, you know, king on a TV show kind of thing to do. All right. So you do a ton of things, and obviously we've already heard about your poetry. You're working on a film. Obviously, you're an organizer. You're, you know, and constantly doing, you know, all sorts of outreaches within and outside of the community. But you include in your list performance artist, priestess, actress, teacher, poet, writer. You indicated that you're also a philosopher and that you have wards. You can touch on whatever of those things that you want to in whatever order you would like to. I think you said muse also. You know, so I don't want to.
Well, I consider myself a muse because I think there's no more wonderful feeling than to inspire others. And I hope that all my work in the community, with all the different things that I do, serve as a source of inspiration. So if I'm inspiring you to create, whether it's poetry or art, or build an organization, or to write an article, or to paint, or to take photography. And if you feel grateful, that's wonderful. And I'm so happy that I've been able to create organizations like the Iron that bring so many people together and give you a place where you can express yourself, where you can exhibit your art, where you can do your performance, where you can battle your.
What kind of philanthropy are your organizations involved with? That you haven't mentioned some already.
Well, from time to time, they change. So we don't stick to the same organization all the time. So right now, the Iron Garden is helping the New Jersey. Let's see if I remember the name. Is the foundation Conserve Wildlife Foundation of New Jersey. That's our current charity, and they have rescued and nurtured a variety of different native animals to the New Jersey area that are endangered or encroached upon. So much building.
Yeah.
So they're doing really wonderful work with their educational programs and their outreach. So it's really a fantastic organization. So we are, that's our current charity. But over the years, we have dedicated ourselves to bat sanctuaries, to food and clothing rescues, to a raptor center as well, to orphan groups, orphanages, and we've donated books and literacy assistance. So over the years, we really have done quite a bit to reach out to different organizations, and we like to bring awareness of these needs and of these charities to the community, so that we're not entirely self-serving, but that we also reach out to others who need our help.
That's great. I especially, obviously, I love the bat sanctuary idea, of course, because I'm a 15-year-old boy at heart. So, but yeah, bats are really cool. What misconceptions would you like to clear up that are out there that you encounter, besides dummies asking you if you're all Wicca and
I would say the majority of the vampires are not Wiccans, nor are they all Satanists. I think that's probably like a huge misconception. Vampirism in itself, it's almost like its own broad form of spirituality, where all paradigms are welcome, so that you can actually, if you are a Christian, you can still be a vampire. If you are a Wiccan, you can be a vampire. If you're a Satanist, you can be. If you're a Luciferian, you can be a vampire. If you're agnostic, you can be a vampire. If you're atheist, you can be a vampire. So that's kind of like the first misconception. Do vampires kill people? No, that should not be the case at all. If you're a vampire and you've killed someone, please turn yourself in and get some recovery because you should not be going out killing people. Do we hurt people, maim them, bleed them dry, and do all of these things? No, that's not what a vampire does. If there are fluid exchanges in vampirism, they're generally small tokens. No one should be getting injured or hurt. If anyone is getting injured and hurt, you really have to stop that kind of behavior, get help to not be involved in that kind of behavior on both sides, both as a donor and as a vampire. This should not be happening.
Are there helplines within and resources within the community for people who get into the occultist community and don't know any better, that maybe are taken advantage of? Or
Sure, there's countless groups now that online is the primary. Before, it used to be the other way around, right? So if you spoke to me, I don't know, 10 years ago, I would say, well, primarily we meet in person, but we do have some online outreach groups, right? Like bloodlines, right? However, I think things have completely inversed at this point. The majority of socialization between vampires is now online. And I think the reason for this is because of privacy. Folks don't want to be identified as going to a vampire event or something along those lines. And it's just so much easier to connect online with people from all over the country. So there are multiple, countless organizations that anyone who's interested in vampirism can reach out to get information. Whether they're all reliable.
Well, yours are, so they can probably reach out to your group and you'll steer them in the right direction, somebody that's in their state or community.
Indeed. And see, that's the wonderful thing about being in orgarnizations, is that you have contacts with other houses and other organizations that are not necessarily in your area. So that if someone comes to me from Missouri or from Kansas and they're looking for a house in that area, I can probably direct them.
Very good. What should I have asked you that I didn't?
Well, you can ask me where I'm going to be in a couple of weeks.
Where are you going to be in a couple of weeks?
I'm going to be in New Orleans. I am going to be conducting...
You're going to be a Voodoo Fest.
Well, no, not really a Voodoo Fest. It is Samhain, Halloween, and it is a special night for Vampire Kin. And I am going to be coordinating an Anne Rice tribute. So Anne Rice passed away, as you know, and many of us in the vampire community who loved her work are getting together, and we are doing something special in her honor. So on October 30th, and that's going to be a Sunday night, I am going to be part of a vampire ball that's hosted by Coven of the Articulate. And after the ball, we are going to do a special outdoor ceremony to celebrate and elevate the spirit, the creative spirit of Anne Rice.
Excellent.
So I'm very excited about that. And if anyone wants to check it out and attend, it's called the Dark Gift Alliance Ball. It's also goes by Resurrection, and it's hosted by Coven of the Articulate. Probably that's the best way to find it is just by covenofthearticulate.com, and you'll have all the information.
And I know that you recently went back to your country of origin. You were recently in Portugal.
Yes, I spent 3 months overseas, and I was in Portugal, and I was in Spain, and I did a little bit of traveling, as I usually do. But recently, I was in Pittsburgh just a few days ago. I was at another vampire ball. It is the season. October is the busy season for all of us.
Makes sense.
We celebrated the full sanguine moon, the full blood moon of October, in conjunction with Aries, up in Pittsburgh. It was a fantastic ball. It was my first time up in Pittsburgh in, I would say maybe 2 decades. And it was fantastic to see so many individuals enjoying the night and celebrating their natures and partaking in the small ceremony that I offered. It was fantastic.
Well, this is the most excited I've ever heard anyone talking about Pittsburgh. Now, I'm kidding. I'm in Baltimore, so of course Pittsburgh, Baltimore.
Pittsburgh is the city of bridges. You know, they have more bridges in Pittsburgh than in any other city in the world. Even Venice has less bridges than Pittsburgh.
I did not know that.
Yes, it's true.
Wow.
And the great thing was that I was asked to present and conduct a ceremony on building community. And I'm like, like building bridges.
There you go.
Yes, like building bridges. Exactly. Pittsburgh, perfect place.
It writes itself.
So and it was fantastic to have different people from different clans and houses to come up and introduce themselves, and it was terrific. Lots of inspiration for me personally.
All right. I think last question.
But I'm doing the right thing.
You just said sanguine moon and in conjunction with Aries. And I know more or less what a sanguine moon is or blood moon is. I know more or less what Aries, but what's the significance of them together?
In the moons in different months have different names, and this is traditionally they have different names. I guess a combination of old Europe calling different moons different names. So this particular October moon can be called by many other names. It can be called a sanguine. And it's very appropriate to build on that name. Although it can also be called a warrior's moon, right?
Hence Aries.
It just seemed that it would be perfect to call it a sanguine. It is, after all, a vampire ball, and blood is life. It flows through all of us, and it is an archetype for our identity as vampires. So that it was a powerful imagery for us to utilize for our ceremony. Conjunction with Aries, full moon in Aries. The full moon in Aries is assertive, bold, leading, and it tells you to focus not just on the things within yourself that you have to work on, but also relationships and partnerships, and how you can make those things work by bearing the hatchet, building bridges, and foregoing past grievances. So it seemed like the perfect evocation for that night, since that was the kind of, this is what the universe presented us.
Wonderful.
And it was a perfect timing. Perfect timing. And auspicious timing is, there's nothing better than auspicious timing, right? It's fantastic.
I agree. Serendipity. Or synchronicity, which I know is a more impactful word.
Magic. It's all magic.
Perfect.
It's all magic.
What should I call it? What should I title this show? And do you have a song that you would like as the outro?
A song?
Yeah, I'd like to play a song as the outro at the end of the song to sort of, that ties into the show in some way or another. And I just fear that I'm going to come up with something too, like Witchy Woman from the Eagles or something that's too trivial.
Oh my. Oh geez. Now the only thing that comes to mind is Wild Child by Wasp. Either that or Bela Lugosi is dead, unfortunately. Those are the two that come to mind right now.
I'll look for Bela. I think Wasp is probably too heavy for my show, but Bela Lugosi is dead. I'll look into who's that by.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Who's that by? Who's the artist?
Oh, that's a very good question. I wish I could tell you.
I'm sure only one version will come up, but I'll check that. Okay, very good. I know that we've covered it during the course of the show, but it's always good at the end to ask the guest to promote whatever they want to promote and let people know where they can follow you and how they can support you.
Terrific. Thank you so much. My house is House of the Dreaming, and you can find our extensive collection of articles and philosophies if you just look at houseofthedreaming.net or .org, and you will find us through there. The Iron Garden, the Court of the Iron Garden, you can simply look at irongarden.org, and that will lead us to the Iron Garden, the New Jersey court. If you are interested in venturing down to the ball in New Orleans, hosted by Coven of the Articulate, you can just type in covenofthearticulate.com for more information. And if you want to reach me personally, you can find me on Facebook. That's probably the best way to communicate, because then you see me and I see a little bit of you as well. And you can find me at facebook.com, and then it's / and then it's Madame MADAMEX.dreaming.
Very good. And if you want to become a movie producer, you can go to the GoFundMe for Blood and Lust. So do that if you want to say you're in show business, like I like to do. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me a second time. I do think the second time was actually better than the first, because I didn't step into as many things that I shouldn't have been stepped into, or not as awkwardly anyway. So thank you for your indulgence and your patience. But I think it worked.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it worked out because it's October, and it's as you said, it's the perfect month. So maybe that was synchronicity as well. But thank you. Good luck in all your endeavors. We'll keep in touch, and good luck with the upcoming events.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and you have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You do the same. All right, folks, thanks very much, and you will hear us again next time in the Garden of Doom.